Virgil van Dijk, 224,000 coins. This guy has 73 pace, but he has 90 defending and 87 physical. If we know one thing, we know EA loves glazing Van Dijk. He has just been a fan favorite. He sells packs. Everybody buys him. Everybody plays with him in Weekend League. All the pro players have him. Is he good this year, though? Let's find out. So before we get started, let's just quickly look through his stats. 73 pace, 60 shooting, 72 passing, 72 dribbling, 90 defending, 87 physical, 6'4", lengthy, and he has the anchor playstyle plus, which is absolutely insane. And he has a double plus plus when it comes to the center back positioning. So his AI is really good. Now, if we look into the game, and by the way, I paired him up with Frimpong because they basically like put each other into max chemistry straight off the bat. The way I play with Van Dijk, guys, and this is how I highly recommend it, is you do not control Van Dijk. You will not be better than Van Dijk's AI. You just won't. EA have coded Van Dijk in a way where his AI is just better than most defenders in the game. So let's just quickly find a defending position. So now the enemy has the ball. Let's see if Van Dijk plays into this. I'm not controlling Van Dijk. I'm controlling Valverde. Van Dijk is the one who's being controlled by AI. He didn't really do much there, but I also did not concede in that situation, right? And then from a corner perspective, where is Van Dijk? Van Dijk was, where is he? He's right here. So let's see how he does. He's way too far out on a corner position. So he's not really that useful in corners. I would prefer him to be around here because obviously Valverde is around the same height as this guy. Van Dijk being 6'4" would tower over him. But I guess the keeper will be able to cover this distance. So actually it kind of makes sense. Keeper will be able to cover this distance. Van Dijk will be able to cover this part. Actually, so this is actually a pretty good combination. So this is one of those situations where his AI again comes into play. So now let's see if Van Dijk is able to provide any assistance or support here. In this case, we intercepted it at the midfield, so we move on. Let's get attacked again. Van Dijk over here. Van Dijk's presence, guys, look. This guy gets the ball immediately. By the way, I don't know how I lost this. Okay, I lost this. I straight up should have scored this, but anyways. Gets the ball. Look what he does the moment he comes up against Van Dijk. He starts panicking. There is just a psychological effect. There is just a psychological effect. I am not controlling Van Dijk. I'm controlling Valverde. This guy immediately starts panicking. If this were anybody else, he might have just tried to make the run for it. He sees Van Dijk, it just sends a tingling sensation down his spine, bro. This is one of those things that players don't realize. Some players, outside of the fact that they have good stats, good meta, some just have that branding, that aura. Mbappe, Ronaldo, Messi, Van Dijk. They just have that branding. It sends chill down people's spines. They start second guessing themselves even though they might have won. Because he doesn't have high pace, bro. He's not crazy responsive. He ain't like those female center backs that are insanely agile. That ain't him, but it doesn't matter. He starts second guessing himself. Boom. Valverde takes advantage of that. Van Dijk holds the line. And the formation is not broken. Look at this beautiful formation. This is just absolutely beauty to see. And integrity is maintained. Let's go forward a little bit more. Just try to find another situation where he attacks. Okay. Let's see if Van Dijk plays into this role. Maybe he didn't do much here. Okay. This time Rudiger stepped in, but Van Dijk is literally there as backup. This is why I almost never control the AI. Because if I control the player and I pull them out of position, they lose this formation. This 4 in the back formation. It's 2 people against 4. There is 1 person in the center mid position, but they're defended by 2. This guy can come in here, but that's fine. Where can he go? He can't go down the middle. There's 4 people here. He can go right, but like it's so hard to score. It's so hard to score corners. This doesn't make it. It's not even a risky position to be in. Let's see if I can go again. What happened here? I literally passed it back to him. Man, I'm like sometimes horrible at this game, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes it's absolutely horrendous. Okay, I lost the ball again. Literally walked into him. Rudiger is the Rudiger, bro. This ain't your review, bro. Relax. Rudiger, bro. Stay out of this. Rudiger, stop. I'm not trying to sell Rudiger, bro. Okay, we actually conceded here. Is this Van Dijk's fault? Let's see how this plays out. Okay. Van Dijk could have intercepted, but he was too far back. Okay, this wasn't Van Dijk's fault. This wasn't Van Dijk's fault. The reason I say this was because if we look at 10 seconds before, that Van Dijk was too far back and like he doesn't want to get out of position. That makes sense. And this was more so Mendy's fault because Mendy will come in here. This guy will make a run and then he'll do a through ball back to him. This was Mendy's fault. This should have been Mendy's cover. Van Dijk actually has his area covered. Boom. And this should have been intercepted by Valverde. Like, he's literally right next to the ball. And he missed it. By the way, I was controlling him. This is why I keep reiterating the fact that let the AI do its thing. Even though AI got nerfed this year, certain players still have decent AI. And this, like, that was, like, Van Dijk cannot make that gap up. Van Dijk literally cannot make that gap up in that situation. It's just far too much. Far too much for Van Dijk to handle. Literally, it was a complete failure from Mendy's end. He should have blocked that. That should have been intercepted because he was too far close. This is an example of the formation broken. In fact, Van Dijk is the only one who is supposed to be where they're supposed to be. Mendy is out of position. Frimpong is far too behind. Rudiger is making up for Frimpong being far too behind. What the hell is he doing, Mendy? Mendy definitely cost us that goal. And it makes sense. Mendy has low defending. Low defending players tend to be out of position more often than high defending players. It is just a fact of the matter. Mendy has really good pace, really good physical, low defending. So he will constantly get out of position. So that's why we conceded that. Let's see if we can have a better example of Van Dijk and how he played into it. So this one was mostly Valverde. That one was mostly Mendy. What happens here? Come on. Give us a good example of a Van Dijk play. What happened here? Okay, Valverde intercepted here. Okay, Turkey to Kolo Muani out muscling him. Oh my God, that was a good example. Van Dijk just walked into him and got the ball back. Van Dijk, yeah, and twice. That was a 2-time in a row. Let's take a look. Van Dijk is just so big. His body frame is so big. Even though the ball bounced back to the enemy, we got the ball back immediately, almost instantly. This guy is just too good, bro. His AI, like, I didn't even control him, by the way. I don't control the guy. This is the crazy part. I literally made it to Div 6 without controlling my players. It's almost like playing this game on AFK Simulator. This should have been a goal from Pepe, by the way. I don't know how he missed that. I guess he's not a really good... headers in this game kind of just sucks this year. And honestly, that's the other thing. People buy Van Dijk thinking he's going to win headers. He won't. I'll be real with you. Kamavinga makes that save. Let's see if we can find another good example of Van Dijk. Okay, first half done. Van Dijk made some good plays. That was a fuck up on Van Dijk. So let's see why he fucked up there. Okay, Kolo Muani, Kamara, Udogi. Then he passes it to Doku. Turkey. Van Dijk this was actually a bad play for Van Dijk. But he missed it because he wasn't actually in a really good goal scoring position. I don't want to like force Van Dijk agenda down your guys' throat, but he wasn't in a goal scoring position. He was on his weak foot side. Courtois had it covered. He was in a weird, awkward angle. Van Dijk was pressuring him. That was never going to go in. So I honestly doubt that would be considered a mistake. In a corner setting, Van Dijk's over here. He's right now over here. Does he do anything? Nope. He does. He goes near post, so it doesn't matter. Let's see if they get the ball back. Okay, they got the ball back. Doku to Turkey. Okay, we're controlling Van Dijk. But see, that time that was my fault. I should not be controlling Van Dijk. But I fucked up there, and it was obvious that that could have been a goal. So that was definitely an L on my part. They got the ball again. Hopefully I don't control the center backs this time. They're trying to pass it to Barcola. Valverde picks it up. So I think dude, I honestly, genuinely, based on like watching my footage back and like fully like understanding how Van Dijk plays, I think his presence matters more than his actual like ability to defend. I don't know what it is. Players, you saw that last play. Players start short circuiting when they come around him. They just start short circuiting. Let's see if he's any good in corners. Rudiger is the one who ends up being, because again, he's on the far back. It's going to be very hard to get the ball to him. I wish he could control where defenders stand, to be honest. Let's go back. Come on, let's show us the Van Dijk masterclass. Come on, right here. Come on, Van Dijk. Prove us you're good. Valverde proved us he's good. Van Dijk? Okay, that was actually on target. One problem in this game is the ball always goes too high with headers, and I generally find most defenders always go high. I don't know how to control it and make it go lower, but in that scenario, Van Dijk actually made it go down. So that was definitely a goal threat right there. So in that corner setting, I actually think he was definitely like adding a layer of like freakiness that I think. Okay, so Van Dijk is far too back now. Obviously, this is a counter play. And he completely bottled it because Doku has no finishing ability. Okay, Van Dijk in a corner. He was there to get the ball back, and he actually... One thing I will mention, when a center back gets the ball from a corner, bro, their composure starts kicking in. Van Dijk has super high composure. So you don't need to worry about making the wrong pass and conceding from dumb mistakes. Most of the time, when you have like a low composure defender there, you will concede. You are guaranteed to concede. Center backs just don't have the dribbling abilities to get the ball out of there, so the ball comes to their feet and they have low composure. They just lose their brain cells and stop operating. So that was actually a good situation to demonstrate. Come on, Van Dijk. What are you doing? Nope. Valverde proves us how good he is once again. This is a Rudiger moment. Nope. Nope. So both Rudiger and Van Dijk got cooked here. That'll happen. That's expected. Any other situation? Okay, Kolomuani, Turkey. Come on, let's see if Van Dijk does anything here. Van Dijk's tackle, which I controlled when it shouldn't have, but he made a bad tackle. Didn't do much there. And we won the game 2-1. Now, I'll be real with you. Defenders are like genuinely hard to measure because attacker, strikers, center mid, you know, because they touch the ball a lot. Center backs barely touch the ball, barely. And if they usually touch the ball a lot, it's because your midfield sucks. And you just keep giving them possession and keep letting them attack. Now, out of like 100% of the scenarios, like 50-60% of the time, Van Dijk did good. 40% of the time, like he made mistakes, and half of them being my defending abilities. Those mistakes were probably because of that. But him having 90 composure, him having crazy high interceptions, crazy high defensive awareness, him having a brand of generally being a crazy good defender, I think psychologically and consistently, the defensive formation and the defensive abilities of your team is positively affected by having Van Dijk in your team. Whether it's because your opponent is literally shitting bricks because they know Van Dijk 20 FIFAs ago literally gave them nightmares, or whether it's because Van Dijk is genuinely good and his AI is actually pretty effective in the game. All that combined, I think he's actually a good center back. And it's more of a feeling playing with him for several games than it is actual effective scenarios, because a lot of those scenarios are actually translated into your ability to play the game. So you can be a crazy good defender with the worst rated defender, and you can be a terrible defender with the highest rated defender. It doesn't matter. But Van Dijk, having him gives you that feeling of comfort and safety. They used to make the joke like David De Gea is equivalent of a condom because he's basically protecting your team. It's like having a condom in your team. Van Dijk is that condom of your team. And so, in that sense, if I had to give him a rating, I would say as a center back, he's a solid 8.5 out of 10. He's not a 9 because he's not fast. If he's fast, bro, he's a 10 out of 10. That's his biggest bottleneck. He's not fast, but he makes a difference in the team. I think he's an 8.5. Compared to Rudiger, I personally saw Rudiger do way more in that team, But having Van Dijk psychologically breaking the enemy down or breaking the opponent down, and then Van Dijk being covered by Rudiger, who actually ended up playing more as a center back and came in clutch in more situations. These two combined is a deadly duo, bro. And I think that's how you generally want to play. You want to play Van Dijk as the brand of your team. He's going to be the face of your team. They're going to hyper fixate on that. And then you're going to have a secondary center back who's actually the better center back who will actually do most of the work. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And that's how I would basically translate Van Dijk into this game. He's really good.